So you're thinking about becoming a front-end developer in 2025. That's awesome. We've got this roadmap from a software engineer laying out all the skills that are going to be in high demand. And it's not just a list of what's hot right now. It's trying to look ahead. It's trying to give you a glimpse into where things are headed. So what stands out to you right away?
I think what's really interesting is how this roadmap emphasizes the evolution of front-end development.
Oh, yeah.
It's an article titled, "What Should We Learn to Be a Front-End Dev in 2025?"
Okay.
It was just published on DEV Community a couple of days ago, literally on December 31st, 2024.
Wow.
But it goes beyond just a list of specific technologies to highlight the broader skills you'll need to thrive, I think, in this world of building websites and apps of the future.
Yeah, like right off the bat, under core foundations, they've got HTML and CSS. Okay, sure.
Right.
That makes sense. But then right alongside those, they've got Git and version control.
Yeah,
That feels a bit unexpected for someone just starting out, doesn't it?
it does. And that's a brilliant way to highlight how the field has shifted. Nowadays, you're not coding in isolation, even as a beginner. Collaboration is key, and mastering tools like Git for version control, it's essential from day one. It's not just about writing code, it's about understanding how to manage it, how to work seamlessly as part of a team.
Totally. So you're not just like, you're not just writing some code by yourself.
Right.
You're already thinking about how it fits into a larger project and how other people are going to interact with it. And
Exactly.
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
That the mindset is just as important as like the hardcore technical skills.
Yeah.
Let's dive into those a bit. This roadmap goes deep on CSS Mastery, but honestly, the sheer number of frameworks and libraries is a bit overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
You've got preprocessors, utility-first frameworks, styled components.
Uh-huh.
Where do we even begin?
It could definitely feel like a jungle out there. But think of it this way. Each of these tools exists to solve particular problems and cater to different approaches. There's no single best tool.
Right.
It's about choosing the right one for the job and even your personal coding style.
Okay, so could you give us an example of how some of those tools differ? Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between a CSS preprocessor and something like a utility-first framework?
So let's say you're working with a CSS preprocessor like SASS.
Okay.
It's like a supercharged version of regular CSS. It lets you use variables, functions, and nesting to write cleaner, more maintainable code.
Okay.
But if you prioritize speed and efficiency, a utility-first framework like TailwindCSS might be a better fit.
Okay.
It provides these predefined CSS classes that you can directly apply in your HTML.
Okay.
So it makes styling super fast.
So it's about finding the right tool for your specific workflow and what
Maybe
you're
it's the
trying to do.
Project needs, exactly.
And then there's the whole CSS-in-JS approach with styled components, right?
Exactly. Style components, those are a game changer.
Yeah.
Especially for developers working with React,
Okay.
because they allow you to write CSS within your JavaScript components, keeping your styling neatly organized and reusable.
Makes a lot of sense, especially as websites become more complex and interactive.
Right.
Okay, my brain is starting to map out this CSS landscape a bit better.
Good.
But before we move on, there's another big player on this roadmap that I'd like to understand better.
Okay.
It's TypeScript. I gotta be honest, I've heard of it, but why is it so crucial for front-end development? And why is it specifically on this 2025 roadmap?
TypeScript is fascinating.
Yeah.
It brings a level of predictability and safety to JavaScript, which can be quite loose and prone to errors, especially in larger projects.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
But predictability and safety,
Right.
like those sound a bit abstract. Can you give us a real-world example?
Imagine you're building a large e-commerce site with a team of developers. You're all handling different parts of the application. You're dealing with things like product data, user information, shopping carts, and so on.
Sure, yeah.
Without TypeScript, it's easy to introduce bugs if someone accidentally uses the wrong type of data.
So it's like assuming all your ingredients are interchangeable when baking a cake.
Yes,
You might end up with salt instead of sugar.
precisely. TypeScript helps prevent those kinds of mistakes by introducing what's called type safety. Think of it like labeling all of your ingredients.
Right.
So TypeScript makes sure you're using the right ingredients in your code, which makes it more robust and easier to maintain.
Yeah.
And this is crucial for collaborative projects, especially as front-end applications continue to grow in complexity.
Okay, now I see why TypeScript is getting so much attention. It's not just about making code cleaner. It's about preventing those nightmare scenarios where a small error cascades into this huge problem.
Okay,
Like
so
having a
stop it.
safety net for your code.
It is a safety net. It's a game changer for building large, complex applications with multiple developers. And as we move toward 2025 and beyond, these types of safeguards just become even more crucial.
Makes sense. This roadmap also calls out Next.js as like the modern framework to learn.
Yes.
It's not just a passing mention. It's really highlighted specifically why all the hype.
Next.js is built on top of React, but it offers these really cool features like server-side rendering, SSR, and static site generation, SSG,
Right.
that could significantly improve a website's performance and how well it ranks in search engines.
Hold on. SSR and SSG, those acronyms are flying a bit fast for me.
Okay, sorry.
Can you break those down in a way that makes sense for someone who might not be super technical yet?
Think of it this way. Have you ever visited a website that felt super slow and clunky?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Or one that loads almost instantly and feels really smooth to browse?
Yeah.
A lot of that comes down to how the content is delivered to your browser.
Oh,
With traditional websites, everything is processed on what we call the client side, meaning your browser has to do all the heavy lifting. But with Next.js, you can actually choose to pre-render some or all of your content on the server, which makes that initial page load so much faster.
Okay, so it's not just about making things faster for the sake of speed.
Right.
It's about making the whole browsing experience more enjoyable and engaging for the user.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the article also mentions alternative frameworks like Remix and Astro.
Right.
Should those be on our radar as well?
Absolutely. Remix and Astro are definitely gaining traction,
Okay.
and each with its own strengths. Remix focuses heavily on web standards and efficient data loading. And Astro is known for its speed and flexibility with partial hydration.
So it's a good idea to at least be aware of
Yeah, definitely.
these different frameworks, even if we don't dive deep into all of them right away.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's less about mastering every single framework, more about understanding the different approaches and choosing the right tool for the project at hand.
Got it. So we've covered the core foundations, dipped our toes into this vast world of CSS,
Right.
explored the importance of TypeScript,
Yep.
and these modern frameworks like Next.js.
Mm-hmm.
But the next part of this roadmap has me a little confused.
Yeah.
It's titled Backend Basics for Front-End Developers. Shouldn't a front-end developer focus on the, front end?
That's a common question, and it reflects how the lines between front-end and back-end are blurring. In today's world, it's pretty rare for a front-end developer to work in complete isolation.
So even if I'm not building the backend myself, I need to know,
You need at least a basic understanding.
how to communicate with it and how to handle the data that's being sent back and forth.
Exactly. The article highlights key concepts like REST APIs and GraphQL,
Okay.
which are basically different ways for your front-end to talk to the back-end.
Right. So like how to get the information it needs. I don't need to become a backend expert, but
You don't need to become a back-end expert.
having a basic grasp of these concepts
Yeah.
will make me a much more effective front-end developer.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm adding back-end basics to my to-learn list. So we've covered the core foundations, navigated the CSS landscape, grasped the importance of TypeScript, explored modern frameworks, and even touched on back-end concepts. What's next on this 2025 roadmap?
The next few points are all about taking those foundational skills and making sure your websites actually work well and look good. We're talking build tools, performance optimization, and even some basic design principles.
Okay, build tools. That sounds very...
Very developer-focused.
Yeah. Is this where we get into like the nitty-gritty of how websites are put together behind the scenes?
You got it. Imagine you're building a complex web application with tons of JavaScript files, CSS style sheets, maybe even images, fonts. And it would be a nightmare to manually manage and optimize all of those assets for the web. That's where build tools come in.
So they're like the stage crew for a website.
Yeah.
Making sure everything's in place and working smoothly behind the scenes.
That's a great analogy. Build tools like Webpack and Vite are essential for modern web development. They automate tasks like bundling your code, minifying files to reduce their size, and even converting modern JavaScript syntax into something that older browsers can understand.
So even if I don't become a build tool expert,
Yeah.
I should at least understand what they do and how they fit into the workflow.
Absolutely. It's like knowing that you need a sound system for a concert, even if you don't know how to set it up yourself.
Makes sense. And what about performance optimization? Is that where we get into the nuts and bolts of making a website load quickly and run smoothly?
You nailed it. In 2025, users have zero patience for slow websites. Nobody's waiting around for a page to load for ages. That's where these things called core web vitals come in. These are metrics like first contentful paint, largest contentful paint, and cumulative layout shift. And they basically measure how quickly users perceive your website as usable.
Core Web Vitals, those sound important.
Hmm.
Are these things that search engines like Google take into account when ranking websites?
Absolutely. Google and other search engines prioritize websites that offer a good user experience, and core web vitals are a major part of that equation.
Mm-hmm.
So optimizing for these metrics not only makes your website faster and smoother for users, but it can also improve your search rankings.
Okay, so performance optimization isn't just about
Correct.
like technical wizardry.
Exactly.
It has a direct impact
Ex-
on how users perceive a website
Exactly.
and how well it performs
Oh.
in search results.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the design aspect mentioned in the roadmap?
Okay.
I'm a developer, not a designer.
You don't need to be a design whiz,
Okay.
but having a basic understanding of design principles will make you a much more well-rounded front-end developer. The roadmap mentions things like UI/UX principles, prototyping tools, and working with design systems.
So even if I'm not creating the initial designs, I need to know
Right.
how to implement them effectively.
And ensure the user experience is smooth and intuitive.
Exactly. It's about bridging the gap between design and development
Yeah.
and understanding how to bring those designs to life in a way that delights users.
It's all starting to come together. This roadmap isn't just about individual skills, it's about understanding how all these pieces fit together
Right?
to create a cohesive, engaging website.
Exactly.
But what about the really futuristic stuff? What does this roadmap say about emerging trends in 2025?
Now we're talking. The roadmap points to some seriously cool areas. AI tools for front-end development, WebAssembly, and even Web3.
Hold on, AI building websites, is that even a thing yet?
It's becoming more prevalent than you might think.
Wow.
We're seeing AI-powered tools being used to assist with everything from generating code snippets to suggesting design layouts. Things like ChatGPT plugins are becoming integrated into development workflows, offering suggestions and even generating code based on natural language prompts.
Wow, that's incredible, it sounds like.
It's still early days,
Yeah.
but the potential is enormous.
It sounds like science fiction is becoming reality. What about WebAssembly? I've heard whispers about it.
Yeah.
But what is it, and how does it fit into the future of front-end development?
WebAssembly, or WASM.
Okay.
It's this low-level binary format that runs in the browser at near-native speeds.
Yeah.
It's like having a secret weapon for performance.
Okay.
It allows developers to run code written in languages other than JavaScript, right, the browser, which opens up a world of possibilities for web applications.
So we could potentially see websites running like complex 3D graphics or even games directly in the browser,
It's
and
something-
plugins or clunky workarounds.
Exactly. WASM is a game changer for performance-intensive web applications.
Okay.
It allows you to tap into the power of languages like C++ and Rust,
Yeah.
which are known for their speed and efficiency, and bring those capabilities to the web.
Okay, I'm officially adding Explore WebAssembly to my to-do list.
Oh.
And what about Web3? Is that going to be a big deal for front-end developers?
Web3 is a fascinating space to watch. It's all about decentralized applications, blockchain technology, and new ways of interacting with the internet.
Okay.
While it's still early, front-end developers will play a crucial role in building the user interfaces and experiences for these next-generation applications.
So instead of building like traditional websites or apps,
Right.
we might be building decentralized applications that run on a blockchain.
Exactly.
That's a whole new paradigm.
It is. It's a paradigm shift that's still in its early stages.
Yeah.
But it has the potential to revolutionize how we interact with the internet.
Okay, I'm definitely adding Explore Web3 to my ever-growing list of things to learn. This 2025 roadmap is packed with exciting possibilities. But before we get too carried away with all this futuristic tech,
Right?
the article also emphasizes something a bit more down to earth,
Uh-huh.
collaboration and soft skills. I have to admit, that made me chuckle a bit.
Yeah.
So it's not just about coding like a machine in a dark room.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Even the most brilliant code is useless if you can't communicate effectively with your team, explain your ideas clearly, and work collaboratively.
So things like communication, teamwork, and writing clean, maintainable code,
Absolutely.
those are just as important as mastering the latest JavaScript framework.
Absolutely. And it ties back to that first point about Git and version control being foundational.
Right.
These tools are all about facilitating collaboration
Yeah.
and making sure everyone on the team is on the same page.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not just about individual skills.
Right.
It's about understanding how to work effectively as part of a team
Yeah.
and how to communicate your ideas
Yes.
in a way that other people can understand. And speaking of fitting pieces together, the roadmap ends with a bonus section
Good.
that I think is super important.
Yes. The advice to build a personal portfolio and contribute to open source projects. These activities are invaluable for any aspiring front-end developer.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Why is building a portfolio so crucial? Is it basically like a developer's resume?
Think of your portfolio as your showcase,
Okay.
a place where you can demonstrate your skills, your creativity, your problem-solving abilities to potential employers. It's not just about listing your skills, it's about showing them in action.
It's like having a gallery of your work instead of just a written description.
Exactly.
Makes sense. And what about contributing to open source projects? How does that benefit someone who's just starting out?
Contributing to open source projects is an incredible way to learn from experienced developers, improve your coding skills, and build a reputation within the community. It also shows potential employers that you're passionate about coding and willing to go the extra mile.
It sounds like a win-win situation.
It is.
You gain valuable experience, you contribute to something meaningful, and you enhance your career prospects all at the same time.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of networking and building connections within the developer community. Attending conferences, workshops, and online meetups can open doors to new opportunities and collaborations.
So it's not just about what you know.
Right.
It's also about who you know and who knows your work.
Exactly.
And who knows, maybe you'll even meet your future employer at a hackathon or a local developer meetup.
That's right.
The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. The world of front-end development is vibrant and constantly evolving.
Yeah.
The key is to stay curious, keep learning, and embrace the journey. Who knows what amazing things you'll build along the way?
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But before we get too carried away with dreams of building the next big thing,
Okay.
let's bring it back to the present.
Okay.
What are some concrete steps someone can take today to start preparing for a front-end development career in 2025?
That's the perfect question to dive into now.
Yeah.
I know it can feel daunting to look at this roadmap and not know where to start.
Right.
My biggest piece of advice,
Yeah.
don't try to learn everything at once.
So no trying to become a master of CSS, TypeScript, Next.js, AND, Web3 all before breakfast tomorrow.
Exactly. Instead, focus on building a strong foundation in the core concepts, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those are the building blocks of everything else we've been discussing.
It's like making sure the foundation of a house is solid before you start adding walls and a roof, right?
Yeah.
Get those fundamentals down pat, and then you can start branching out from there.
Precisely. Once you feel comfortable with the basics, pick one area from the roadmap that really speaks to you and go deeper. Maybe you're fascinated by visual design and want to explore different CSS frameworks, or perhaps the logical structure of TypeScript appeals to you.
I like that approach. It turns this massive roadmap into something more manageable.
Right.
And as you gain experience in one area, you can always come back and explore others. So it's not about becoming an expert in everything overnight. It's about building a solid base and then following your interests.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment and try different things along the way. The beauty of front-end development is that there's so many different tools and technologies to play with.
It really is like a giant playground for creative minds. But with so many options, how do you choose which path to focus on first?
That's where a bit of self-reflection comes in. What kind of websites or apps do you dream of building? What problems are you passionate about solving with technology? Let your passions guide your learning journey.
I love that. So it's not just about following the latest trends. It's about finding what truly excites you and using that as motivation to dive deeper. But let's get practical for a moment. We've talked about all these skills and technologies, but how do they translate into actual job opportunities? What are employers looking for in front-end developers in 2025?
Great question. And luckily, this roadmap gives us some very strong clues. Employers are going to be looking for developers who are proficient in modern frameworks like React and Next.js, comfortable working with TypeScript, and deeply understand the importance of performance optimization and accessibility.
So the skills we've been discussing aren't just abstract concepts.
Right.
They're directly applicable to the real-world demands of the job market.
Absolutely. And remember those bonus points we discussed earlier, building a portfolio and contributing to open source projects, those aren't just about learning, they're about showing potential employers what you can do.
So it's not enough to just have the skills. You have to be able to demonstrate them in a tangible way.
Exactly.
A portfolio is like a developer's resume, but instead of bullet points, it's filled with actual projects that showcase your abilities.
Exactly. It's a chance to let your creativity shine and to prove that you can not only code, but also solve problems and build things that people actually want to use. And contributing to open source projects shows that you're not just coding in a vacuum. It demonstrates your willingness to collaborate, learn from others, and contribute to a larger community.
It sounds like the ultimate trifecta. You gain experience, contribute to something meaningful, and boost your career prospects all at the same time. Who wouldn't want that? Precisely. And don't forget about the importance of networking and connecting with other developers. Attending conferences, workshops, or even just participating in online forums can open doors to new opportunities and collaborations.
So it's not just about the technical skills, it's about becoming part of a community and building relationships with people who share your passion. That's really encouraging, especially for someone who might be just starting out and feeling a bit lost.
Absolutely. The front-end development community is incredibly welcoming and supportive. There are tons of resources, both online and offline, to help you learn and grow. The key is to stay curious, keep learning, and remember that everyone was a beginner once.
Okay, I'm feeling motivated. But before we get too carried away with dreams of landing our dream job, let's bring it back to the present. What are some practical, concrete steps that someone can take today to start preparing for a front-end development career in 2025?
That's a great question, and one we should definitely dig into. I think a lot of people listening are probably wondering that right now. Where do I even begin?
Yeah,
It can seem really overwhelming.
yeah, for sure. But the good news is that there are a ton of resources available to help you get started.
Oh, that's good.
The first step is actually simpler than you might think. Embrace the abundance of online resources out there.
Oh, yeah.
There are tons of websites, tutorials, and online courses that can guide you through the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Hmm.
And a lot of them are totally free.
Free's always good,
Always good, right?
especially when you're starting out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you have any specific recommendations for those who are just starting out on their coding adventure?
absolutely. Websites like Free Code Camp, Codecademy, and Khan Academy offer fantastic interactive coding tutorials that are designed specifically for beginners.
Okay.
You can also find a treasure trove of information on platforms like MDN Web Docs and W3 Schools, which are essentially encyclopedias for web development.
So you can't go wrong with those.
Nope.
There's no shortage of options for getting started. It's amazing how accessible these resources have become. What about those who prefer a more structured and immersive learning experience?
Online coding bootcamps have become increasingly popular in recent years. They provide intensive programs that cover a wide range of front-end development skills in a condensed time frame.
Okay, so they pack a lot in.
They do.
Yeah.
And while they typically require an investment,
Sure.
they often offer career support and job placement assistance,
Okay.
which can be incredibly valuable
Mm-hmm.
for those looking to break into the industry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really serious about
Right.
making that career transition,
Yeah.
that could be really helpful.
Exactly.
So boot camps can be a great way to fast track your learning and gain practical experience in a supportive environment. What about once you've got the fundamentals down and you're ready to start building real projects? Where do you find inspiration?
That's where your own creativity and passions come in.
Yeah.
Think about the websites or apps that you personally love to use.
Yeah.
What problems do you encounter in your daily life that technology could potentially solve?
Okay.
Maybe you're a foodie and you dream of building a recipe sharing app. Or perhaps you're passionate about education and want to create an interactive learning platform for kids.
Right. Let your passions guide your project choices.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between doing homework and pursuing a passion project.
Exactly.
But let's be real for a moment. It's inevitable that you'll run into challenges and roadblocks along the way. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling stuck or discouraged?
It happens to the best of us. Remember that every developer, even the most experienced ones, encounters bugs and roadblocks. It's part of the process. The key is to not let those challenges discourage you. Instead, view them as opportunities to learn and grow. Your debugging skills are just as important as your coding skills.
So it's not about avoiding mistakes altogether.
Right.
It's about learning how to overcome them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and become a more resilient developer. And don't be afraid to ask for help. The developer community is so supportive. Online forums like Stack Overflow are gold mines for finding solutions to common coding problems. And don't underestimate the power of simply Googling your error messages. Chances are someone else has encountered the same issue and shared their solution online.
It's like having this global network of coding buddies ready to help you out
Right.
whenever you get stuck. I love that. But it's not just about finding answers, it's also about developing the ability to debug and solve problems independently.
So,
Those are essential skills for any developer.
absolutely. Learning how to use browser developer tools and debugging techniques will save you countless hours of frustration in the long run. It's like having X-ray vision for your code.
I love that analogy. But let's be realistic for a moment. Learning to code takes time, effort, and dedication. It's not always going to be easy. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling overwhelmed by the journey or comparing themselves to others who may seem further along?
It's so important to be kind to yourself and avoid comparing your journey to others. Everyone learns at their own pace and starts from a different point. Focus on your own progress. Celebrate your small victories. And remember that learning to code is a marathon, not a sprint.
I love that analogy. It's so important to remember that. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. It's about continuous learning, growth, and the joy of creating something from nothing.
Well said. Front-end development is a dynamic and constantly evolving field. There will always be new things to learn and new challenges to embrace. That's what keeps it exciting.
Right. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of front-end development in 2025. We've covered a lot of ground, but I hope our listeners come away feeling inspired and empowered to take that first step. Don't let the vastness of the field intimidate you. Break it down into smaller, manageable goals. Find resources and communities that support your learning journey, and most importantly, never stop being curious.
That's the perfect takeaway. The future of the web is being shaped by creative and passionate individuals like you. So go out there, build something amazing, and leave your mark on the digital world.
That's all for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time with a brand new set of fascinating sources to explore. Until then, happy coding.